It's
What's
Kendall
up? And John.
Antonelli's of Antonelli's Cheese Shop, and we're so excited to kick off 2021 with January's Cheese of the Month Club selection.
We are pumped. This is so exciting that my mouth has been watering just looking at these tonight.
All right, so this is new for us this year. We've been hosting our Cheese of the Month Club for 11 years now. This is our 11th year, but we wanted to bring you video content. So if you want, you can do it with us, or if you don't, you can just follow along in the menu that we gave you. But let's talk through what we've chosen for this. So every month there's a theme, and this month, what's the theme?
This theme is Old World. And so, you know, the Old World, Europe, Spain, France, Italy,
Like usually when people come into a cheese shop and they think, I want good cheese, they're talking about European cheeses.
Yeah, and they're thinking about American cheese slices, right? In a little beautiful plastic.
And we're going to debunk that, but that's a future Cheese of the Month Club. So right now, though, we are celebrating Old World cheeses because there's so much history and tradition and hundreds of years of practice to continue making these cheeses better.
Yeah, and so the tasting that you got in your package or are getting, if you're watching this early, is 4 cheese tasting. And so we've got it lined up in a way that makes sense from a palate perspective. So pay attention to the flavors that you're experiencing. You should have gotten a tasting guide sheet along with your package. And this is our first cheese. This is Petite Basque. So this is a French cheese. It's made on the border of Spain and France in the Basque country. So the Basque have their own sort of culture and language, and they make these amazing cheeses, typically sheep's milk cheese, because the Pyrenees Mountains are a natural border between the two countries, and sheep love that environment. And so
and it's just much less suited to dairy cows.
Yeah.
Like you don't have the room and graze lanes and all of that for dairy cows.
Exactly. And so the Basque style cheeses, Oso Irati is one of the most popular, our shop's most popular. It's about a 9-10 pound wheel of cheese. It's been made for hundreds of years. This is Petite Basque. So they actually started making this maybe about 2 decades ago, just a little over 2 decades ago. Istara is the company, and it's a 1 pound wheel. So it means that it can age much faster. So it ages in 70 days, develops these really beautiful fruity notes. You want to talk about sheep milk?
Yeah, sheep's milk cheese is typically known, it's the richest in fat out of cow, goat, and sheep. And sheep's milk cheeses are typically known for this nuttiness, this rich decadence. You can almost taste the luxuriousness. Am I making up words? Yes, on your palate. Sometimes it's almost like the lanolin, like if you rub wool, if you rub a sheep. I used to show sheep in my youth through 4-H, 4-H lambs. And so it's almost that, but it comes off as just like really smooth, decadent. This is great. Sheep's milk cheeses, aged sheep's milk cheeses in particular, are always great paired with red wines. And especially this natural wine will go with a bigger, bolder red, which I wouldn't normally actually recommend for a cheese tasting.
This plate in general would be great with a big, bold red. And so your second cheese that we're tasting is this beautiful, sort of rounded edge piece. It's got this gray mottled rind, a little bit of white. This is Garocha.
Hopefully yours does have this beautiful molding on it. We often get the question, oh, my cheese already went bad, it has mold. Just as a side note, all cheese is mold, in fact, and it all has some strains of mold. Oftentimes we think of just blue cheese as being moldy, but all of them have some mold on them. And especially if they're cave aged, that's the ambient molds and spores that land on it and grow there and are specific to one place and one cave and one aging cellars that you can't replicate anywhere else. So that's truly what makes that cheese special.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this cheese, Kendall and I have had the luxury of getting to travel to meet the producers that make the cheese that we sell. And we got to visit this producer in Catalonia, Spain, with our kiddos. And just sitting here smelling this rind.
Sant Gil D'Albio.
Yeah.
But said with a Catalonian
just
accent.
west of Barcelona. And what's amazing, this mold, this grayish mold, blooms on the outside of this cheese and puffs up like a cotton ball. And they spelled our name with their fingers along the wheels. When we got to visit. It's
So
a family-run company.
In the aging rooms, it's actually got like an inch of mold on it, which is not atypical for many of these cheeses. And then as you're distributing them to market, you wipe it all down and wipe it off. And so by the time it gets to customers, it will have a little bit of that flourishing again.
Exactly. And so Garocha is a really historically important cheese because World War II really impacted Catalonia, that region of Spain. And they stopped producing a lot of the cheeses that had been important. And so this is actually a small family. They revived the cheese in the 80s, brought it back to life. It's goat's milk. So you get this real nice acidity. The rind gives a little earthiness to the flavor profile. I'm smelling a lot of hay. What's super cool when you visit, it's this tiny little town on this hill surrounded by these beautiful fields. And they've been making this cheese in their family house since the 80s. And so the upstairs is where they make the cheese, is where the dairy is. The downstairs is the aging room, and there's a couple rooms where they live. And so they've kind of created this elevator in the gap in between in the courtyard. It's an amazing operation, but this is an incredible cheese. And
it was actually the grandmother which brought back and started making cheeses. And goat's milk cheeses, as John said, are known for being acidic, bright, zesty, this minerality. So this will be great paired with anything high acid. So a high acid white wine or even a red. If you have a jam, a fruit jam that is really like all fruits have acid in them, that would be a great pairing with this one. So play with that.
Perfect. All right, our next cheese. All right. Oh, and Pep, the current cheesemaker, great person, go visit. This next cheese has this black paraffin rind on it. It's a very hard cheese. Oh, look, it cracked when very dry.
Who plated this, Kendall?
So this is a cheese from Sardinia. This is Mitica Sardo. So it's produced in the style of Fiore Sardo, which is a traditional Italian cheese. Nice age to it, good hardiness. They use a Sardinian breed of sheep to produce this. So this is our second sheep's milk cheese. So tasting side by side, that young, softer versus this hard, drier. A little bit more lipase. I would say typically somebody would probably take a cheese like this and grate it onto food. But I think this is an outstanding table cheese. It's worth being a centerpiece in a dish rather than a side.
Honey, the more aged you get, oftentimes the more salt content becomes pronounced. So this would be a fun one to pair with honey on top of it. So if you have any honey, pull that out. Again, this will go with your red wines. It'll take your heavier beers, would be fun with it too.
Yeah. So this recipe is older than the Roman Empire. So it's predates Roman conquest. So it's over about 2,000 years old. So it's amazing that the history behind this, they've just kept producing and producing. All right.
And as we go into the last one thing I forgot to mention is you can eat the rind. So on the Fiore Sardo, you probably don't want to eat it because it has that thin painted wax on there. It is edible, so if you did eat it, don't worry. But on these other two, the Petite Basque and the Garocha, those are absolutely edible rinds. Be kind to your rind. You'll hear us say that over and over. No rind left behind. A rind is a terrible thing to waste. So it'll just provide different flavor and nuance. Try it. If you like it, eat it. If you don't eat it. But yes, you can eat the rinds on those first two. And that takes us to our blue cheese, which doesn't look blue.
Yeah, this is very much like a gateway blue. This is Chiriboga Blue. It's German cheese. It's one of our very few German cheeses that is made in an artisan way. Arturo Chiriboga is an Ecuador native, married a German, moved to Bavaria. And so he started producing this blue cheese. It's based off a recipe that is over 100 years old, but he makes this very gently blue, right? Like you can see there's very little veining, just a little hint. So he doesn't puncture it very much. There's actually intellectual property around one of the steps. We don't even know what steps he takes to make it so light and delicate. It's aged just over 30 days.
This is a great blue if you don't like blue and what you're used to is a traditional ubiquitous crumbles at a steakhouse on your salad. Try this. It's a softer, it's cooling, it's fudgy, almost like peanut butter texture-y. You could stuff this into peppadew peppers, eat it with some jamon on the side, or just.
And what I like about it, you can see some of the blue development on the rind. not all blue cheeses have that rind development. And some are just white, but I love that because the rind is actually gonna be the most intense part of this cheese rather than a traditional blue cheese with lots of that blue mold on the inside.
This one would also make an awesome sauce, like if you eat meat over steak, or even
lobster mac and cheese. I don't know why. That
or
sounds amazing.
over asparagus, like sautéed asparagus. You could make this blue cheese sauce, but it won't overpower it because it's such a light blue.
So we have some recipes that are over 2,000 years old and some that are less than 20 years old. But the old world has really laid the foundation and the framework for what American cheesemakers are doing, which is super incredibly special and innovative and fun. And so we have a lot to be thankful for.
This is your foundation. Yeah, and this is your foundation in January that we're going to build upon as we keep going. So we look forward to seeing you all in February. And thank you so much for joining our Cheese of the Month Club. See you on the flip side, y'all.